All right, guys, what's going on? Let's do a review and I guess a scan kind of put together. I do want to note scans have been a little bit weird, even awkward, if you will, because it's like I feel like I'm covering the same thing over and over and over again. But nothing has really changed. I do still think that there's a handful of stocks that are going to take us to the glory land. Um, and those primarily now being it was TSM. Obviously, TSM played out, and I got out just in time on that one with a target to target trade. But AMD, MU, Intel, but I would say Intel is more of like a share-based thing. But that and then Crowd, right? Shop even are all kind of primed. And if I keep adding stuff to the list, it's going to obviously be harder and harder to catch because a couple of those are bound to fail, right? If I just keep adding exposure, maybe they all work, but I don't have the size necessarily to really kind of catch a worthwhile move. It just gets a little bit harder the more you have to manage. So I've been trying to keep it as tight as I can. But really, to just review things here, I did put out like a voice chat thing today on QQQ, and it was pretty simple. I keep saying it, right? It's good to have exposure in case this rips, right? Because we don't really know where the higher low is going to be. Obviously, we're consolidating here at these highs, but to see a gap rejection like this and it sell down, this should be very reminiscent of another stock, right? We just traded this stock and it almost had the same exact setup minus this lower high here. But TSM, right before TSM broke out, did almost the same thing, right? Where we ended up kind of building out this higher low here. We popped up and really absorbed this 175 resistance. And then we had that big drop, right? Actually, it was back here where we ended up having this 175 touch, and then we had that big drop, much lower than everybody expected. It ended up being a second higher low. Then it popped again, pulled back, had this like third higher low, if you will, in this same demand zone popped. We had our LPS, very tight spread up here with the 3 consecutive absorption days of 175, and then just an absolute face melter, right? 14 points to the upside, 8% into that 186 target. It actually went a little bit more to 189. But yeah, you guys get the gist, right? I mean, QQQ kind of looks the exact same, just the resistance is a little bit different here. It's this one spot at 488.28. We didn't absorb it here, but we've been absorbing it pretty much the first time, right, since this day back here, the day it was made, July 17th, right? We never got close here. But we've had a couple days of absorption here. We have had some higher sell pressure, nothing crazy, but we ended up starting to get that push down off of this open here, right? Right around Tuesday, and obviously we had a good buyer step in off the 9, or I think it was the 921. It was the 21 specifically. That's where we got that large wick. But to not see really any upside continuation off of that when we closed underneath Monday's low, I don't know, guys. This bar looks like it's kind of like a rest day prior to a continuation from Tuesday, right? And obviously, it would take a lot for us to pop and get up to this 488 level. So, I mean, there was a reason I took a short, guys. Remember, I ended up taking the short on Tuesday. Back, I think it was on the close or just as we retested Monday's low. It'll look a little bit cleaner here on the 15. We'll turn on extended hours, but yeah, we ended up pressing here. Remember, I said if we broke 40, I think it was 484.48, but I had it just kind of switched around to 485.54. If we broke that, the short was available. It ended up melting through Monday's low, and then obviously we had this kind of double bottom formation or a low, higher low. We ripped. I think some people participated in that rally up into 483, which is awesome. But I ended up going short off of this. I did tell everybody I was re-adding the short position that I had, and I actually went with the October 4th, which is this week's expiration on Friday, right around here, right? Almost perfect. We saw an immediate reaction, and these dropped all the way down to like 481. And then in the overnight session, right, we ended up kind of opening. We spiked a little bit, nearly back to the close, right? The close was in this general area here. And really, right, didn't touch it. We just got slightly close to it, and then we sold off. So all in all, that move was fantastic. This ended up being a 40% move. Let's say I caught the high. I mean, I guess we could just take it from here. Really nice move overall, right? It was about $5 or a percent on the NASDAQ there. So really good trade. It closed out, and then remember it pushed up into here, and I had those leftover 5 contracts, and it got a little hairy off of this same spot, that Monday low, the lower high from yesterday, and it just got stuck here, right? And like I said, not a lot of volume to really kind of scream continuation to the upside. Volume was really low today, and a lot of it was just kind of consolidation against this 482.92, which is this lower high Monday low. And we closed just underneath that right now. In after hours, we are testing a little bit above that. I don't really think that matters necessarily. Either with the 5 contracts I swung, either I have another win that just kind of adds on to the profits that I had, we get a continuation underneath this low here from Tuesday, or I'm wrong, right? Maybe it gaps up to 45 and I'll just close these out. I don't think it'll be super crazy velocity. Just I made sure obviously not to have a lot of size on this one, because it is a little bit more speculative. Now, like I said though, the daily does look good. Daily looks good. We really didn't see any increase in any like activity to try to close it over that Monday low. In my opinion, this looks like just a continuation from this Tuesday candle. And honestly too, I think a lot of people are going to get undercut. A lot of people trade SPY versus QQQ, and people are likely looking at this as a pullback into this old all-time high here at like 564. Got to remember, dude, like I think we undercut. I think we undercut this. It looks a little bit better on QQQ, but I definitely think that we can get this move under based off that Tuesday continuation, hit 561, sweep, close back above, and then have NFP, or maybe next week when flows kind of come back into the market. I'm specifically talking about Vana and Charm, that will really kind of ignite a rally post October 7th. Now, what happens after that? My opinion is we have like another small rally. We create like a similar zone to this after we get a higher high, maybe around 585, 580, and then we kind of consolidate. I think the elections will probably be bearish. I think I'm speculating too much, but that's just my assumption, and then it'll likely pull back one more time, and then I think we're off to the races again for a move to like 600 bucks. But yeah, I mean, I've been telling you guys here, if we do get this sell-off, I think it's very welcomed. And a lot of people, I think 2 people messaged me that when I took calls up here, I took the 3 contracts around 488, like asking why I took those. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you can get a breach of a gap and we kind of close above the way we did here on Thursday, albeit it was low volume, it's always worth a shot. That's why I took 3. It's not like I took 15 or 20 or 30. Just because, like, hey, there is that off chance that we kind of hold here and then we'd rally to that 498 spot and then we start to sell. So I still have those just in case we rally. I still have my December 500 Cs. But really what I'm looking to do here, guys, is have this sell down. And I usually just wait for the downside. That's what I've been doing recently. I haven't been trying to trade puts and then flip calls. Really the past, I don't know, 2, 3 months, 4 months, has been waiting for these sell-offs and just letting these happen and then just going long. So I'm flipping it up just a tiny bit here because I think there is an opportunity, primarily through the use of those dark pool prints at 471. I think that that's kind of the screaming opportunity in my opinion. So, I mean, that's the reason I took the trade yesterday. It wasn't the only reason, but part of the reason I took the trade. And then obviously going short over tonight. And things kind of look distributive on the hourly. Hourly 15, it is looking like it is set up for a small distribution down into this 471 spot. And I did mention on my video, I mentioned it on stream when I did that stream, I think it was like Sunday or Monday. This looks like the perfect spot for like that higher low, right? That second consecutive higher low. People might view it as like a back test of this trend line, whatever you guys want to say it is, right? This third higher low or second higher low in this sequence. And then obviously contracts should be really nicely priced right around here. What's catching my eye is still the December 500s. I'll just reload those. And then obviously I want to get a little bit more time on them. There's nothing wrong with rolling out even further to let this play out and not be as stressed. I like the January 520 calls. I think those will still do really well. Those aren't too far out of the money. And obviously, 496 to 72 to 497 is my target, but I think we can blow past that to like 503. So we should get a really good move here where out of the money contracts will move nicely, right? So that's kind of why I've just been watching QQQs and been being super patient. I don't want to get good size on these unless I am definitive in kind of where. I wanted to say my answer, but I'm very set on where this should pull back to, and I don't want to be buying this close to this resistance. This reminds me so much of TSM. So there's that. What else do we got, guys? Crowd, really good move today. I know there's some stuff in the chat today about like fills. Like, guys, dude, when we were getting into this trade, was it back here? Yeah, I mean it's been a little bit of a pullback, and I mentioned that I was going to be lenient with my ads here, off of the 9 EMA into this 285 level. I mean, I thought this thing would go right away. I didn't have the size I wanted, but it did continually pull back. Obviously, it's coming down into this potential gap here. And it's difficult, right? It's difficult to like alert exactly what I'm bidding, where I'm at on this because like I said back here, guys, this was I think it was a 25, 27 point spread. If I alert something and somebody just buys the ask, right, and somebody gets a bid fill, those guys are down almost 30%. So like, I was trying to let everybody know, like, hey, I'm just peppering in here, I'm peppering in here, in the right spots, obviously. And as we started to pull back here, remember I said I took decent ads off of this 273.75 spot. And I was just bidding down, right? I mean, that's all I was doing. You guys can clearly see the bid-ask spread, or the bid-ask on the options chain. And I was putting like 5 to 10 every single bid that was popping up, right? As long as it stayed within that realm, and then I was going to risk 267. So all in all, like I think I had had a 1.17 fill, and I had some extra bids get filled on this little, I guess this little wick here. And like I said, it doesn't even matter too. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a move down and just somebody ends up obviously selling, right, and those bids get filled, you can get that fill even with price moving up sometimes. It's a little weird with these ones. I think the bid ask has tightened up a little bit. I think it's 17 or 12 now. Either way, the difference is nearly 10%. But yeah, good move today overall, right? We ended up opening right where we closed, and then we rallied up to the highs here. So I mean, you can technically consider like this range kind of like profit. But a good start on this one. I think the only issue is a lot of people have their eyes on this one, which is what I don't like to see with Fintuit. A lot of people just kind of have that drawn out. But either way, right? I mean, this looks pretty good. I would just like to see some kind of pop here up into 285 to 290. I drew this out a while ago, right? Just kind of a pop here. I think we hit 290, base 285, pop out, base 290, and then really this starts to get good above 300. That's where I'll likely look to trim. But yeah, right now I'm sitting at 28.45%. Issue is if we do pull back, like I said, and somebody gets a bid fill, I'm dropping 10%. So I'll be 18% on a dollar pullback. I'll be 8% on two. You know what I mean? So this was a little bit difficult because the spread is wide here. So if it ever happens like that, it's always best to try to get a bid fill on any kind of pullback. But even then, dude, there's no like that's people have messaged me before and told me like, hey, I couldn't get a fill. Like sometimes you have to go at the ask or get a market fill because pullbacks need to happen in order to get those bid fills. Don't know what to say. I mean, that overall though, this looks pretty good. This looks ideally up into 300. I would say by end of October, this thing is just primed, in my opinion. This thing's primed. This won't trade like this much longer. Maybe if anything, it kind of does this, where it starts to trade alongside this. Worst case scenario, sweep in, reclaim, right? It starts to do that. That would be worst case scenario. Obviously, I'd have to take either a stop out or more ads off of this 267 spot. But even then, who knows? We don't want to get faded out of this one. But that's worst case scenario. But I do think that this has a nice pop up to 300. What else? Let's take a look. AMD here. This didn't have the best move today. I really thought we were good to go, guys. This thing looked good. Remember, I said I was being lenient with this one too. This is my least positioned swing that I have right now. And really, this was based off of this weekly 162 spot. Technically, if you guys wanted to do it, you guys could probably go like back here, or I mean, there's a lot of spots, guys. I mean, you technically could have gone 157. I was using 160 to 162 as my general range. And then remember, I said I was being pretty lenient with my EMAs here. I mean, I'm not an EMA trader, but this is pretty much just a pullback into your 920 EMA. And that's really what I've been watching. And then if this had pushed up and kind of gave us that flag pop out and reclaim here, that would have been my signal. Once again, I would have added more contracts into that spot there, right? Very simple. And I think this continues up to that 177, 168. I'm sorry, 177 to 176.80 spot. And really, I think this plays out on the weekly chart. I think you'll have some kind of wick be where this candle is currently at with the candle body, and then we close above. That would be pretty nice. But I'm still watching this one for ads. Like I said, it's just a little bit difficult with this one. AMD's been like this for a while, where it's not so cut and dry in terms of just like one single bar high. What I just had kind of marked out there, right? Like none of these candles have really closed above. They've all just been wicking. So if you can take maybe a plethora of them where they have kind of pushed above, that could be an overall support, or you can pull this down to maybe like a candle open, candle close, candle open type situation to really lean this one up. Like 154 even would be a decent spot. It really kind of comes down to you on where you want to draw that support because it's all pretty valid. Like this whole range here, guys, is I would argue is support, right? And this all ties into this this pre-redistribution low. I mentioned this multiple times that this is all going to be a support once we flip it. Just important to look at the volume, look at the divergence there. And we are getting that, right? So AMD is still a big watch for me. Just need to get some more size on that one because right now I'm ill-sized on it. Now MU is an interesting one. This one looks super clean, guys. I mean, I would argue this looks exactly like a cup and handle. If we pull this from our fibs, we're right at the discounted zone today, and it's no secret too. Like we're right at the 0.5, and there are a ton of calls. I'm trying not to look at it, but it's hard to ignore. There's a ton of calls that float into the 1018, 110 call. So they're looking for a snapback rally back up to this resistance here, right? Which is this lower high, which is this earnings candle, kind of like the low after that. I would like to see it a little bit deeper, right? I mean, I might start something here at the 0.5, maybe like 2 contracts. And I'm going to get time, guys. Like, I really think that this can play out over the next couple weeks to months. I'll probably be looking at like January or February. And I'm still targeting, guys. I mean, these are the easiest targets to have. It's that 127.81 spot. I would be using the 130 call. But yeah, I mean, if we can get an entry right off the gap here, or right at maybe slight size off the 0.5, maybe 5 contracts or so. But you know, this would be insane, right? If we can get something like this, maybe like a risk this little gap here. Obviously, entry would be, let's just say we have the 0.5, right? That would be insane. That'd be a 3.33. I still have my shares. I might add into these as well. That would be a 6.4, right? So just an insane opportunity here. Like I said too, this is a huge thing, is letting contracts cool. Contracts have definitely cooled with the down movement, right? Contracts have obviously lost value because of that. They've lost value because of Vega, right? Losing volatility that are now falling off after the earnings date, and then obviously volume as well. Like, dude, this thing is almost perfect. So still going to be watching this one as a big player. Remember, I did take it back here, but it wasn't anything serious. This was kind of like a lotto position that I honestly, I think I got lucky on. Worst case scenario, like I would like to go over these, is this thing ends up falling, right? It ends up doing what I initially thought, which is that sell off back towards this gap before continuing higher. This should, once again, remind you of Shop, where we had, you know, easy progression. It looked like it was going to break out, and then it sold because of earnings, right? I think it was due to earnings. Maybe I'm wrong, but sold down into this gap here that was well below where price was, right? It kind of just sunk down really quickly. MU still gives me those vibes. So, I mean, that's worst case scenario. Something happens, this sells all the way down to here, and then it starts its recovery back up. But even then, right, like that's still, in my opinion, share buys, which I have and I would be happy to add into. I don't think I'm going to stop out of those anytime soon. What else? Oh yeah, Shop. Shop's interesting. Shop looks pretty good, guys. I didn't get an ad today. I was actually looking at other stuff when I was looking at chat today. I should have probably added into this one. But this, I mean, once again, right, we kind of got our pullback. It's starting to round here, and still relatively strong against the rest of the market. The 76, 78 spot just remains to be a good support here. This is obviously higher than we would like in terms of premium, but it's still looking very strong, so there is an opportunity here. I mentioned the weekly spread from week of September 23rd. Overall, though, I mean, this just looks like a nice break and base above previous resistance. Remember, this lower high is now being based here, and this looks like a stage 3 breakout, right, where we can get a move up into that level around 90 bucks. So this is still on watch. Honestly, this might be the first thing I do tomorrow is add into this one. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I just wanted to kind of go over everything. you know, and there's a couple people that obviously asked me about Tesla here. I think Tesla's in a good spot. I actually might entertain this one. I did say like I'm okay adding, you know, stuff into the scan. Tesla is definitely one of those where we did have this overreaction, in my opinion, to delivery numbers. Remember, that doesn't really matter too much to me, but we sold right into the 20. We essentially retested this the top of the gap, right? We closed above in a very nice fashion, kind of like a hammer candle, and we're right off the top of that progression gap. This has potential for a really nice weekly close as well, with some really good structure the week, 2 weeks prior to the earnings date on October, right? And then we have the Robo Taxi event as well. This just looks like it is primed. If it can just hold here, give us a nice weekly print. I think this is a good opportunity to grab even more. I would say maybe 305, 310 calls for November, and get that exposure increased on that, because I still have my December 300 calls, but once again I might take a roll on those and pull down into November 15th, maybe November, I don't know what the other expiration is. I think it's the 7th. And try to get 300 or 305 calls and just increase my exposure overall on this one, because this is exactly what you want to see, right? I mean, this is that pullback, retesting the top of that zone there. Even if it sells a little bit more, I'd be pretty happy with it coming and retesting this previous resistance within that gap. Just remember, I'd say it all the time. There's a lot of there's not as much risk as perceived at these extremes. That's actually more opportunity, and a lot of people will misconstrue that opportunity for you know, risk, right? I mean, sometimes these are the easiest and best risk trades. The risk is very simple. Risk to reward is obviously extremely high. If we can get that pop there, you know, I would expect something like this, right, where we can get this drop here. Maybe we hold, chop a couple days, and then pop. In terms of actual movement on that, I mean, dude, that's so nice. That's 45 points, and I think it'll happen really quick with that event. This one is a little bit weird. I'm not trying to think about it too much, but there is this unfilled gap way down here at like 147, 157. It still lingers in my mind that this could be a sell the news event. I mean, but if it ends up being that, right, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think this chart starts to become a little bit more bearish as we break under 234 or 225. That's where I would kind of keep my stops and be a little bit worried about the chart. But right now, right, I mean, the top of the progression gap or this 234 spot are prime ads in my opinion. So I'm going to be keeping this on watch as well. And that's really all I want to add, guys. Nothing else. If you guys tagged, what was the, it was Oxy. Oxy, I mean, this couldn't have been a better deliverance of price. I marked this out where I had this progression gap here. I said I really just wanted to see us break through it, pull back and test the bottom of it, and then obviously climb on a lower time frame, close above the top of it. We did exactly that. And then remember on Tuesday we opened, wicked underneath it a little bit, and then we fucking just went on a tear, guys. We ran all the way to 53, and now we're retesting 53. I think there's still another potential add here if anybody wants to re-enter. I might take this on the side if I'm being honest, but it did pull back. It is retesting and is holding 53.11, right? There's still opportunity, in my opinion, for a move all the way up to 55.12. Daily candle doesn't look the best, but if you kind of just go look at it on the hourly, right, it's just a reclaim of a level, and it could be flagging here in the extended hours. This might be something that moves overnight, but you know, I mean, this could be another. It's kind of like supplementary win to add on to the track list lately, which has been really good. There hasn't really been any losses, honestly. I think the only one I'll have would be those QQQ, those 3 contracts I started at 488.88. But yeah, and also too, I just want to tie in, guys. I mean, we talk about NWOG and we talk about like the Jolts NFP week as being one of the most heavily manipulated weeks, and it's not always like a bullish thing, right? You can distribute and then go lower, right? It doesn't, and especially it depends on where you open and it's relative towards resistance levels and kind of the theme that's currently going on. And for us to open right here after this 488 rejection, and then we start to get our higher volume coming in on Tuesday, it just like things on the smaller time frame and the daily look like they could be distributive, and it doesn't always mean, right, where we end up, you can look for the 3 higher high distribution. I've talked about this, and that's part of the reason I took those 5 contracts. And obviously, if it does sell, you don't have to be a participant of that. I just wanted to mention before I got off, there was those big dark pool prints at 471.79. Or I'm sorry, 488. They were at 488. They were pre-market, or they were the after hours ones. So they are lining up sell orders up here at 488. But remember, they bid below these daily lows and these key spots to try to get fills, right? And we know that there's that pre-market as well as that major. I think this was the one on SPY too. I didn't see it up for QQQ. I just saw it on there, but I saw it a little bit late, but 561 had like 70 prints. It was insane. And those were the signature prints, so there is a big buyer here that's still there. Like I said, I could see the undercut happening here from a lot of people trying to trade this all-time high as support. And that lines up perfectly with that pre-market print as well as this 471 level, right? So that's kind of where I got that if you guys were curious. And if it does happen, I mean, I'm a big buyer off of that range and just that general area. So there you go. I just want to end it there. It's about 25 minutes. I kind of went over everything. I know some people had trouble loading the video from yesterday when I recorded it on my Mac. So this should be a little bit better for you guys.